And we got a ton of stuff to cover today, folks. We're going to be talking cosmology. We're going to be talking economy. We're going to be talking toroidal versus poloidal fields. And looking at the sun in 193 actions right here, a giant coronal hole rotates into the Earth-facing region. Also, we have a stratospheric level volcano and other news articles to cover, so let's keep going here and not cause any delays. We're also going to look at 304 angstroms. There's 304. Large filament still dancing around in the northwest as well as in the southeast. Let's zoom in on both. There's that northwest filament. And there's a southeast filament. Otherwise, very low solar activity, folks. 10.7 centimeter radial flux all the way down to 66. So legit solar minimum conditions going on there. So here we are. We're looking at roughly 7.5 hours of solar activity here. At the colored magnetogram, we're looking to see if any of these fields further consolidated. We were looking at them yesterday, and not a lot going on. We're going to cover a lot more stuff, but let's first talk about how to support the channel. Do it via Patreon and join at a $10 level, as we're about to set up a new tier and get rid of the old tier entirely. You can also donate on PayPal or on Hemp Lucid. We've got a spaced out campaign specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers, so check out the links below the video, as there are many ways to support the channel, as YouTube does not pay us anything. When they say the channel's monetized, it's monetized for Google and YouTube to show you ads, but not monetized for us. And let's go back to space weather type subjects. Looking at the real-time solar wind, we see the phi angle just jumped around while I was doing show prep, currently around 300 degrees, awaiting a 180-degree magnetic connection to that coronal hole as the earthquake risk continues. Again, there was a 70,000-foot ash plume produced from Shigaluch Volcano yesterday. So lots of stuff going on here despite low solar activity. Solar wind density 5.14, a small uptick there. We are expecting a coronal hole wind stream to hit late in the day today. So a KP of 4 is the forecast for that, and solar wind is at 334 kilometers per second. And here's the ACE data, looking pretty similar. Let's move on to more stuff. 10.7 centimeter radial flux still above predicted values, but man oh man, 66 solar flux units and very, very low solar activity. It's solar minimum as it continues, folks. Next, we're going to look at magnetosphere movies. And first, we'll look at density, as we did see a recent density spike. So we'll let that play through. That's 4 hours of data. And you'll see at the end of the video here, you'll see a density spike happen. Keep in mind this graph, this scale, I should say, is showing you low density as white and high density as navy blue. And there are some odd fluctuations there going on in the solar wind density. Let's also look at the pressure. And we'll let that play all the way through here. Again, 4 hours of data, courtesy University of Michigan Geospace Model. After this, we're going to head on to the geospace ground magnetic perturbations. We see the main density there. There's that little spike that just happened with the changes in the solar wind density. And next we'll check out the geospace magnetic perturbations on the global scale. Keep in mind we do have two poles in the north right now and a creeping south pole as the south pole creeps toward southwestern Australia. We've got a north pole over Siberia and a weaker north pole over northern Canada. And there's that perturbation as we expect current to have been flowing through the planet. KP has come off of its highs here from only 2 back down to 1, so we're expecting a pretty extreme spike when we get that coronal hole wind stream later tonight. Expecting a KP of 4. We're going to skip cosmic rays today and move on to the ionosphere movies. And there's the current state of affairs in the ionosphere. Nothing too abnormal there. Let's go to the latest image. And there's the latest image. Looking pretty normal in the ionosphere. GOES X-ray flux remains flatlined. Seeing a small dip in the electron flux, that's what you call proton light. For you new viewers out there, the N's and M's are noon and midnight satellite time, if that makes sense. For instance, right now the GOES 14 is right around midnight. Does that make sense? We hope so. And we talked about it yesterday. Let's just cover it again as it's a good visual. The conjunction between Venus and Mars. Check it out. And no, Venus is not 10 times bigger than Mars. Shout out Snowflake. And there's the GOES. Excuse me. There's the GOES magnetometer. Still looking pretty spiky here. And let's go to the Gong 2 and give it a little bit more context. All right, so there's the Gong 2, and we're expecting smoother sailing now as the magnetic environment has shifted into a more of a holding pattern here, and expecting that GOES magnetometer to smooth out over the next, I'll say 36 hours at least. Do keep in mind though that that coronal hole wind stream is going to cause some striations in that, but the overall field out of the sun is looking pretty basic here. So there is a little bit of activity still rising here. We do see these suspended areas, something to watch throughout the coming day and week. Moving on. And let's just look at the view from stereo A for once, as we haven't done that recently. You can see there's quite a significant coronal hole here. That's the one that's rotating into the Earth-facing region right now. And again, that's from stereo A, folks, which is located out in this area, right about here. That is where you'll find stereo A, where my pointer is. So we're looking at the sun. That's the way we see coronal mass ejections before they hit the planet. Let's see where things will be in 1 week. Just coming off of the new moon. Check out in-the-sky.org. Create your own sky map, as we did, as we find it interesting to know what's going on above our heads. You can even animate it. Now this is the sky map too. As I'm always interested, when Deneb sets, probably the most consistent source of cosmic rays. We're having a pile up going on in the sky today, by the way, folks, as we have the moon, Mercury, the sun, Mars and Venus all up there all at the same time. So it's a cosmic pile up. Earthquake rundown. First of all, if you're in Western South America, be prepared for a larger quake, as you've been getting deep quakes there. Let's go down the list. 4.3 at Chile. 4.6 in Indonesia. That one's 91 kilometers deep. 4.4 at Tajikistan. 4.9 at the Central Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Used to be a weird place for quakes. Now we see about one every week or two. 5.3 at the Solomon Islands. That might be the largest quake of the past 24. Here's a 4.6 at the Central Mid-Atlantic Ridge, as well as a 5.0. So 3 quakes there, 4 quakes there, and also a 4.6. So a sudden swarm there in the Central Atlantic. 5.3 at Colombia. 4.2 at Indonesia. That one's also at depth, heads up there for a larger quake. One out in the Gulf of Alaska. Haven't seen one there. 4.7 at India. Right on the corner of that plate boundary. Moving on to windy.com. Now, we're looking at the sulfur dioxide map here. And that right there is Shivaluch Volcano. That right there is Shivaluch Volcano, folks. And again, this thing has produced a 70,000 foot ash plume. I believe it's classified as a VEI5, Volcanic Explosivity Index. And you can actually see a sulfur dioxide cloud there. It looks like it's associated with the volcano, apparently blowing north. So if you check out windy.com, you can view their sulfur dioxide map by going over here. And we normally use this to show the pressure. So let's just zoom that out and animate that. As we know, low pressure systems, especially anomalously moving ones, are associated with earthquakes. Let's get the standard view we usually use here. Move me back over here and let this thing play through. I'm going to let it play about 24 hours. Again, heads up Western South America. Deep quakes and coronal holes and that low pressure system could spell disaster for the western coast of South America. And there's about 24 hours of pressure maps. And let's move on. Again, Shivaluch volcano producing a 70,000 foot ash plume. That's a stratospheric injection. Those gases and ash can stay up there for years, folks. And if you think volcanoes are heating up the planet, well, you got another thing coming. That's not the way atmospheric physics works. Volcanic ash and gas are Earth cooling factors. And this is about the third or possibly even the fourth. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the third stratospheric level volcano this year. That one's way up as it's a very far north volcano in the first place. Let's do the rundown of the whole list. Anyway, that eruption was on 8/24, so I stand corrected there. Sanjiang Api also exploding, producing a 10,000 foot ash plume there. Popocatépetl, 19,000 foot ash plume there. Sangay, volcanic ash detected in satellite imagery. Revenador, same thing. And Sabancaya still producing explosive activity and a 24,000 foot ash plume. Please do not pole vault Sabancaya, as it could be perhaps not a good day in your track and field career. Next, we head to Null School, nullschool.net, to look at the jet streams in the Western world. Talk about meridional flow. It's quite cold where I am, which is in eastern Pennsylvania, as the jet stream's pulling cold air down. And we've got doubled up jet streams there. There's going to be all kinds of news reports about, oh my gosh, the world's burning up because of carbon dioxide. It's all complete nonsense. Let's look at the eastern world's jet stream and then move on to more stuff. There's the eastern world. Southern jet stream is all over the place. And we are seeing some changes happening in the high pressure winds. Let's just look at it real quick here. The 10 hectopascals. You see essentially a triangular shaped low pressure system there right over Antarctica. And this is in control of a lot of the world's weather, folks, believe it or not. And up here, if you look at this from this view, you can see that low pressure there between Africa and Australia. And that does translate to a large fold in the jet stream also. There's the 25,000 foot flight altitude. You see that giant fold in the jet stream. Moving on. Lots of stuff to cover, folks. Lots of stuff to cover. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar. And the north-central states are getting hammered by some serious storms again, as well as Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, and a bunch of rain hitting the southern states. And here's the NASA GOES water vapor map. We see dry air dominating the entire southwest, as well as a tropical system forming off the coast of Florida. And let's look in the ocean for once. All right, here's the view from there. As we see some serious convective forces. Must be global warming, folks. It's pulling water out of the ocean and it's forming into a tropical system. If you think a hot planet causes tornadoes and hailstorms, please leave a comment so that our viewers can laugh and laugh. And we've graduated to the that is a donkey and that is a sinkhole section where we get censored. And well, maybe not. I'm not sure. Please leave a comment if you're finding our videos not showing up in your notifications. Let's define a term, gravity. People who think carbon dioxide is warming the planet do not understand the gravity of the situation. Yeah. Now, classical astronomers are going to tell you that gravitational accretion is what causes things like galactic motions. Not to mention the formation of things like stars and planets. So we've got this Thunderbolts Project article for you, which we've linked in the description. It's from April 24th of this year. Well, guess what, folks? Gravitational motion does not rule the universe. Electromagnetism and electric current rules the universe. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance as astrophysics gets rewritten, causing me to get back into the field. So thanks for your support, everybody. But don't go anywhere because the video's not over yet. Let's play a quote from David Lapointe as he's released his technology for free. If you watch yesterday's video, you'll hear all about it. Let's talk about the primer fields once again, as they're going to become more and more important in your daily lives.
In this presentation, you will be shown that correcting this one basic misunderstanding of magnetic field also explains most all of our problems in physics and astrophysics.
Did you think I was kidding about the rewriting of astrophysics, folks? I mean, I've gotten a lot of pushback about it. Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you'd like to come on the show, you are cordially invited. Now, we covered this last week. We were not aware there'd be an article this week about the deepest hole in the world. Now, I was not aware that this just has a bunch of rubble on top of it now, but man, oh man. If you rifle through the rubble, you'll find a large metal disc bolted to the ground. Well, guess what that is? That's a 12-kilometer deep hole. And when they got down there to 12 kilometers deep, they could not understand why it was getting so hot. They could not understand why hydrogen gas was bubbling out of there. They could not understand why there was water found so deep. Please leave a comment if you have a hypothesis about this. And I know why. I'm just not going to tell you. Now let's talk about climate change, ignorance, and stupidity. Bernie was in Kentucky yesterday offering free stuff. Let's read a quote. Future generations deserve a planet that's healthy and is habitable, and we have the moral responsibility to make sure that they have that kind of planet. I'm trying to do the hand motions, his robotic hand motions, and it's pretty hard to do. Well, guess what he's doing? He's talking about giving you free stuff. Climate change is real. Let me be as clear as I can. Coal miners are not the enemy, the senator said. Workers in the fossil fuel industry are not the enemy. Climate change is the enemy, which Bernie believes is caused by carbon dioxide and caused by human activity, folks. So, anyway, it turns out what his brilliant plan is to, quote, rebuild those. Here is my promise: as we transition away from the fossil fuel, we will not abandon communities that have relied on fossil fuel jobs. We will rebuild those communities and make robotic hand gestures that do not coordinate with our speeches. This is my promise to you, the people of Kentucky. Free stuff, provided by a government that can't afford it, continues to increase spending and inflation, and suggests that quantitative easing by the Federal Reserve is a good thing. That's a good thing, like waiting in bread lines and chandeliers in Soviet railway stations. All right, enough of that nonsense. Let's talk about more nonsense. High above the Greenland glaciers, NASA looks into the melting ice. Anyway, we've got links to this article as well as the other articles we've covered. And yeah, there's some Elvis impersonator called Joshua Williams, dressed in a blue jumpsuit with thick sideburns, flying around in a plane around the coast of Greenland, the only spot where there's less than 9 feet of snow. Let's take a look at it. And there it is. There's Greenland, folks. Does that look melted to you? Does that look melted? I'm just going to let that sink in for a minute. This is real-time data from windy.com. What does that say? What does that say right there? Does that say more than 5 meters? Pretty sure that says more than 5 meters, folks. They're flying. What they're doing is they're flying around just these areas and they're cherry picking data from only these areas, which melt every summer, unlike these areas, which, by the way, ice sheets form when snow falls, and then it doesn't melt in the summer, and then more snow falls, and that compresses the underneath snow, and that turns into ice. That's what we call glaciation. And if you weren't aware, Antarctica formed 34 million years ago when the planet was 2 degrees C warmer than it is today. The planet's not warming, folks. Sorry. If that's too controversial for you, please unsubscribe from the channel. Again, we've got links for this article here highlighting our taxpayer-funded Elvis impersonator flying around with his sideburns in a plane over only the melted portions of Greenland, as opposed to the portions that have over 9 feet of snow, which is almost the entire island. Let's talk about the U.S.-China trade war and what happened over the weekend. Well, the markets crashed on Friday. I don't know if you're aware of that. The U.S. stock market, I think the Dow was down 800 points or something like that. And Trump responded by raising the rates on nearly all Chinese imports as two infantile countries, the U.S. and China, keep trying to raise the stakes of this stupid trade war. And by the way, the tariffs are going to do nothing more than raise your prices, especially if you're a business operator. And within a few months, they'll raise your prices if you're a consumer. Now, Trump has called on U.S. companies to, quote, search for alternatives, as if applying a tariff is going to suddenly cause goods to just mysteriously be produced in the U.S. It's complete nonsense. And he couldn't have picked a worse time, as food prices are set to rise around the whole world. So he doesn't reduce government spending. He economically involves the U.S. government in trade, which is completely contrary to President Trump's a Democrat. Sorry, folks, it's true. Do you follow us on other social media, such as Facebook? What about on Twitter? We're on there. Share with your friends who don't have Facebook, as a lot of people use only Twitter as their social media. We're also on Gab. There's yesterday's thumbnail. There's our David Dubine long-form discussion. And also on minds.com/smAsho. It's the future of social media. It's open source. It's not going to shadow ban you. The software actually functions, unlike so many big tech companies out there. Shout out to Bill Ottman. Thanks for the brilliant social media organization. We love it. It's the future of social media, folks. Get yourself an account over there, minds.com. And maybe send us some tokens. Also, if you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe on YouTube. And thanks to our latest 2 subscribers, we see it's steadily going up here. So shout out. Please leave a comment. Please share with your friends on social media. Please follow us on Patreon, as we're changing things around all the time. Remember, folks, evolve or die. Evolve or die. As we're constantly reinventing ourselves and our channel, and thanking the Smash team for their support. Don't go anywhere, folks. We got 2 more bonus features. Talking toroidal and poloidal fields. Now, the blue arrow represents a toroidal type of emotion, and the red field represents a poloidal type of emotion. We're talking about associated with the toroid field that's created when you have these sort of round, donut-shaped magnetic fields, such as the one you live on. In other words, the interplanetary magnetic field is like this blue line, and the sun's Z fields are like these red lines. And they're interrelated, but we'll just leave a link to this. Read up on it. Lastly, a Peter Schiff article from Schiff Gold. The media has flipped the narrative on Trump. Now, Trump ran on the bubble economy, suggesting that all the data was fake. And now he's suggesting that the data showing that the economy's bad is fake. So read the article and hopefully profit from it. If you don't listen to Peter Schiff's podcasts, well, it's highly recommended that you do, as he understands the real economy, the Federal Reserve. Because remember, folks, the economy isn't the stock market. The economy is the exchange of all goods, services, and currencies around the whole world. So there's a lot more involved than stocks. There's also bonds, there's currencies, there's commodities, there's rising food prices around the whole planet as Australia becomes a net importer of grains. China searches all around the world for soybeans and applies tariffs to all. In fact, China doesn't even import any U.S. ag products anymore. They have a complete boycott on U.S. ag products. They're trying to buy soybeans from Brazil, and on the list goes. Enough said. And last but not least, here's 7 hours and 45 minutes of our local yellow dwarf, and this is the 94 angstrom view for your new viewers out there. That coronal hole rotating in is so defined it's easily visible in this view. And so we're expecting a magnetic connection to that anytime. In fact, it could be happening as we speak. Otherwise, very low solar activity. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Patreon page. There are some public posts there, or if you refuse to open up your dust-filled, moth-filled wallet, there is still some public stuff there, as we do release a whole bunch of content on all platforms. So thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your Monday. Stare at the sun. Use the proper instruments like the SDO or perhaps a solar filter. And when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.